I took her to Paris to save our relationship. She asked to stay without me to find herself. So I left her there, with nothing. Let me rewind. Claire and I had been together for just over 2 years. Before my career took off, we were that annoyingly happy couple, dancing in the kitchen, binging trash TV, making pancakes at midnight. Our life felt light and golden, like one of those romantic montages in a movie where nothing bad ever happens. But promotions come with price tags. Mine was time. I stepped into a senior product management role at a fast-growing tech startup in Chicago. Suddenly, my 9 to 5 became 9 to whenever. Late nights. Weekend calls. Emails at 2 a.m. The fun vanished. The closeness frayed. And Claire? She didn't complain, not in words. But I saw it in the way she laughed less, touched me less, stopped sending those little good morning gifts she used to. We weren't falling apart. We were drifting, like two people in the same boat, quietly paddling in opposite directions. I felt the guilt sit heavy in my chest like wet clothes. So I planned something. A trip. Something big. Paris. A city she always dreamed of, mentioned offhandedly during our first months together as bucket list level romantic. I wanted to hit reset, to eat buttery croissants on cobblestone sidewalks, get lost in alleyways, maybe even say, "I love you," again without feeling like I had to check my Slack messages first. I paid for everything. Flights, boutique hotels, Michelin-star dinners. I kept it a surprise until the night before we left. The way her face lit up when I told her, we hadn't had a moment like that in months. And honestly, Paris was magic. For a while. There was a night in Montmartre when we danced under fairy lights at a tiny wine bar. I remember thinking, we're back. Her smile was soft again. Her touch easy. I thought we were on our way to fixing things. Until we weren't. On our final day, we took a walk to the cliffs near Etretat, this breathtaking spot where green cliffs kissed the ocean. It looked like something off a postcard. I was about to suggest we come back next spring, when she turned to me and said, "I'm not coming home with you." I laughed, thinking it was a joke. She didn't. "I need more time here," she said, voice quiet but steady. "To think. To figure out what I really want, without you." I blinked. My throat dried. "What?" She looked out over the water like it could answer for her. "This trip made me realize I've lost parts of myself. I need to stay, without distractions, and just find clarity." Distraction. That's what I'd become to her. I tried to stay calm. To breathe through the sharp twisting in my gut. I'd planned this as a gesture of healing, she took it as an exit ramp. I said the only thing I could muster. "If this is your choice, then the cost is yours too." Her face snapped to me. "You're cutting me off?" "No," I said. "You're stepping away. I'm just letting go." She called it heartless. Manipulative. Said I was using money as a weapon. But I wasn't angry, not yet. I was stunned. She made the choice, without even discussing it. Not a hint of doubt during our trip. No late-night talks, no. We need to figure things out. Just this. And now she wanted me to bankroll her epiphany in a country we were supposed to leave together. I gave her the hotel key, walked down that cliff path, and booked my return flight. Alone. As the plane took off the next morning, I looked out over Paris shrinking below me and wondered, had she planned this all along? Or had I just been a stepping stone to a better life she hadn't decided on until it was convenient to leave? I didn't know then. But I'd find out soon. 3 weeks passed. 3 long, echoing weeks of silence from Claire, until I heard her key in the apartment door like she'd never left. No heads up. No text. Just the sound of her boots on the hardwood, dragging a suitcase behind her like she'd come back from a business trip instead of disappearing into a Parisian soul-searching sabbatical she expected me to fund. She walked in looking different. Not bad. Just distant. Like someone who'd spent time practicing how not to care. Hair darker. Jaw set. She didn't even ask how I was doing. Instead, the first thing out of her mouth. You really left me. I didn't answer. I just looked at her and waited, because that was the moment. That was when she should have said, "I'm sorry." Or "I didn't mean for it to go like that." But she didn't. "You didn't even send money for the hotel." That's when it snapped. "Claire," I said quietly, "you told me you needed space. I gave it to you. You told me you wanted time. I gave you that too. You said this was your decision. So I let you make it. You stranded me," she said, tears rising now, as if they were retroactively rewriting the narrative. "You left me alone in a city I didn't even speak the language in." "No, Claire," I said, trying to stay calm. "You stayed. I left." There's a difference. The fight that followed was like a slow-motion car crash. She called me cold, controlling, accused me of manipulating her with money. I tried to explain it wasn't about the money. It was about her making a life-changing decision without me. She didn't care. She wanted to win, not understand. So she left again. This time, slamming the door hard enough that one of our photo frames crashed to the floor, ironically, the one of us smiling in front of the Eiffel Tower. I spent the next few days in a weird limbo, unsure if we'd broken up or if this was just a pause. I didn't reach out. She didn't either. Then came Ben. Ben is a friend, more like a brother, honestly. Level-headed. Never gossipy. Never gets involved in drama. But that day, he called and said, "Hey, you got a second?" We met up in this quiet bar we used to haunt in our early 20s. He nursed his drink like it had answers. Then he finally looked up and said, "Look, I wasn't going to tell you. I didn't want to make things worse. But Claire didn't just stay in Paris to find herself." He paused. "She borrowed money from a bunch of people. Friends, family. Said she was having a crisis." My stomach sank. "But that's not all," Ben said. "Someone saw her around Montparnasse. She was with a guy." I felt the words hit me like ice water. "She met someone," he continued. "And she's pregnant now. Word is, she's back because he wanted nothing to do with it." I sat in silence. Not breathing. Not moving. Ben added, almost reluctantly, "There's talk she might try to claim it's yours." I wanted to laugh. Or scream. Or run. But all I could do was stare into the bottom of my drink and feel the floor shift under me. Because even if it wasn't mine, even if I knew I hadn't touched her in weeks before the trip, if she said it was mine, I was screwed. Not just legally. Emotionally. Because I'd loved her. Fully. Blindly. I'd built that trip to Paris on the ruins of a relationship I thought could be rebuilt. And she'd used it as a runway to someone else. Someone she thought was better. And now, after all that, she was back. Pregnant. And planning to make me the fallback. After Ben's warning, I didn't sleep for 2 nights. Not more than an hour or 2 at a time. I kept checking my phone, half expecting a text from Claire saying something like, "We need to talk," or "Can we meet?" But nothing came. Just that eerie silence people use when they're planning something behind your back. So I got proactive. I started making calls, quiet ones, to our mutual friends. Dropping Claire's name casually. No one gave me anything solid. Just weird hesitations and vague answers like, "She's been going through a lot," or "You two were always complicated." But Kay, Claire's closest friend, was different. Kay and I had always gotten along, mostly because she had a radar for bullshit. She was direct, sometimes painfully so. I called her under the pretense of asking for advice on how to fix things with Claire. She agreed to meet me at this small, low-key cafe downtown. When I arrived, she was already sipping coffee, staring out the window like she'd been practicing what to say. I didn't waste time. "I know Claire's pregnant," I said quietly. "And I know it's not mine. But I need to hear it from someone who isn't trying to play me." Kay didn't blink. She looked me straight in the eye, then exhaled and said, "She got a paternity test." I froze. She did it 2 weeks ago. She was scared. Confused. I don't know if she hoped it was yours or hoped it wasn't, but when it came back negative, she didn't know what to do. That confirmed it. I wasn't the father. Not even close. She told me she might try to spin it. Kay continued, her voice tight. Said maybe if you thought the baby was yours, you'd help. That you'd step up, take care of her. And the father? I asked. Gone. Some guy she met at an expat party. I think he was from Marseille. He ghosted as soon as she told him. The knot in my stomach tightened. This wasn't just betrayal, it was strategy. She wasn't just lost. She was calculating. Kay looked down at her cup. She's scared, yeah? But she's also willing to lie if it gets her what she needs. I'm telling you this because you deserve the truth, not because I want to hurt her. I thanked Kay and left. The cold January air bit through my coat, but I barely noticed. I kept thinking about how far Claire was willing to go, not just to escape accountability, but to pull me back into a story where she didn't have to be the villain. By the time I got home, I had already made my decision. The next morning, I texted Claire. Meet me tomorrow. Same cafe where we had our first date. Noon. She showed up 10 minutes early. Her face was pale, her hair tied back in that soft, practiced way she used to wear it when she needed sympathy. She looked tired. Fragile, almost. She started with, I'm so glad you called. I've been wanting to. I cut her off. I know. Her smile faltered. I know about the pregnancy. I know the baby's not mine. I know you thought maybe pretending it was could fix this. I kept my voice calm, but every syllable felt like a slow-motion punch to the gut. It won't. Her face broke. Not in sadness, at least not in the kind I trusted. It was the panic of someone realizing the lie didn't land. I didn't know what to do. She whispered. I was scared, and you've always. No, I said. I was there. That's the difference. She didn't speak. Just sat there, eyes glassy. After a long pause, I added, I'll clear the remaining debts from your Paris trip. That's the last thing I'll do for you. After that, we're done. She nodded, shoulders shaking as the weight of it finally set in. And I meant it. Helping her close out that chapter wasn't for her, it was for me. A way to walk away clean. To let go of the guilt, the what-ifs, the part of me that still believed she was who I met 2 years ago under fairy lights and laughter. As I stood to leave, I looked back at her one last time and said, I loved you. But I won't be your parachute. And I walked out. I thought that was the end of it. I paid off the hotel debt Claire left in Paris, about $3,700 total. Sent the receipts to her email. Cleared the joint credit card. Changed the locks. I even returned a few of her things, packed neatly in a box she never came for. It was supposed to be over. But 2 weeks later, I came home to a manila envelope wedged between my front door and the frame. It was from a law firm. Inside? A formal request for voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. My jaw clenched so hard I thought a molar might crack. I stood there frozen, the envelope shaking in my hand, reading the form over and over like it might say something different if I just blinked hard enough. But no. It was exactly what it looked like. Claire had filed paperwork to establish me as the father. There wasn't even a phone call beforehand. No text. Just this, an ambush dressed in legalese. I called the number listed on the form and got patched through to her attorney. I'd like to dispute this, I said flatly. I've already been informed through her friend Kay that a paternity test was conducted, and it ruled me out. There was a pause. Then the lawyer spoke, smooth and condescending. We've received no such documentation. If you wish to challenge the claim, we suggest you obtain your own test and submit results within 30 days to avoid complications. That word, complications, stuck in my throat like glass. I hung up and called Kay immediately. Did she not tell you? Kay said, stunned. She swore she'd drop it. She promised. She didn't drop it, I said. She escalated. I scheduled a paternity test through a private lab the next morning. 3 days later, I had the results, 99.999% not the father. I mailed a notarized copy to the firm. I CC'd Claire. And I thought, finally, this is it. The last blow. But it wasn't. A few days later, Claire showed up at my apartment building. No call. No warning. She looked hollow. Hair messy, eyes raw. No makeup. Just an old sweater and desperation clinging to her like smoke. Can we talk? She asked, voice small. I didn't answer. Just stepped outside, pulling the door shut behind me. I'm not here to fight, she said. I'm sorry about the paperwork. I didn't know what else to do. You could have not lied, I replied. Her lips parted like she might argue, but then she nodded. You're right. She sat down on the steps, trembling. I lost everything, she whispered. He left. My savings are gone. I owe people. No one's returning my messages. I didn't want to trap you, You did try to trap me, I said quietly. And now you're hoping pity will fix what truth already broke. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. I don't know what to do. I believe that. But it didn't matter anymore. I'm not your fix, I said. I'm not your exit strategy. You made choices. And now you have to live with them. There was a long silence between us. Finally, she said the only honest thing I'd heard from her in months. I thought you'd save me. I stood there for a moment, watching the woman I used to love crumble in front of me, and I felt nothing. Not anger. Not revenge. Just a quiet detachment, like a door closing behind me for good. You saved yourself, I said. Just not in the way you hoped. And I walked back inside, locking the door behind me as she sat in the cold, finally understanding that the one person she thought would always stay was gone. 2 weeks passed without a word. No texts. No calls. Just a vacuum of silence where Claire used to live, her presence scrubbed clean from my home, my accounts, my calendar. But it wasn't over. I didn't expect forgiveness. I didn't want revenge. I wanted closure. Not just for me, but for everyone who believed her version of events. Because Claire wasn't done lying. And I found out the hard way. It started with a mutual friend, Lauren, who messaged me late one night. Hey, I just want to ask, did you really abandon her in Paris? Pregnant? I stared at the message for a long time before replying. No. And she wasn't pregnant with my child. She knew that. She filed anyway, Lauren replied. Jesus. She said you ghosted her. Left her stranded. Said you refused to pay for the baby because you didn't want to be a dad. And that's when I realized Claire wasn't just spinning a story. She was branding it. Victim. Martyr. Single mom, heartbroken and abandoned by the man who funded her trip, then cut her off cold. So I made a decision. I didn't start a fight. I didn't respond to the whispers or try to explain myself one by one. I opened a Dropbox folder labeled Claire Archive. Inside were screenshots of the original paternity test results, my airline receipts home from Paris, a copy of the notarized denial of paternity, credit card statements showing every dollar I paid for that trip, and, most damning of all, a screen recording of a voice message she'd accidentally left me, where she muttered, "He won't go along with it. Guess I'll have to figure out something else." I didn't blast it all on social media. I sent it quietly to just 6 people, those I knew she'd talk to. I wrote, "I'm not interested in drama. I just want the truth to be clear. Claire can say what she wants. But this is what actually happened. Please respect my decision not to be part of her narrative." I didn't expect replies. But over the next week, I got them. Lauren wrote back first. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea. You don't deserve any of this." Then Ben. Then 2 others. All shocked. All apologetic. Some angry, not at me, but at how easily they'd been played. But none of it brought satisfaction. Just relief. The kind that only comes when you stop fighting to be understood and start trusting that the truth has its own weight. As for Claire? I haven't seen her since that day on the steps. Kate tells me she moved in with a cousin across the city. That she's working part-time at a bookstore. That she's trying, in her own way, to rebuild, without lies this time. I wish her no harm. But I'll never let her back in. Because the worst kind of betrayal isn't the one that blindsides you. It's the one that comes wrapped in intimacy, wearing the face of someone you once called home. And now? Now I live lighter. My apartment is quiet again. I deleted the Paris photos. Tossed the souvenirs. But I kept one thing, a folded paper from that last night in Venice. A map of the canal she stuffed in her purse, then left behind. It reminds me that some people don't get lost accidentally. They choose to wander. And sometimes, walking away is the most loving thing you can do for yourself.